So are we live
Okay,
now?
we are indeed.
Now we're
Okay,
live.
all right. So let's give it a 2-second pause, and then I'll introduce it, all right, so that they can get the snipping. All good. Okay, brilliant. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5onFriday, the show that brings you plenty of good expertise from the sales industry to help salespeople get better. This week, obviously, we've got Costas and Kate, who are the big hitters in the industry that are going to help Max today. What we're going to be focusing on is cold calling and how to sort of perfect the art of cold calling. We've got two guests. So obviously we've got Max Tomago from CodeThink, who's going to be participating, and we've got Tom Castley of Outreach. So Tom, can you quickly introduce yourself for those that don't know?
Of course, yes. So Tom Castley, VP over at Outreach, and have been running SDR teams, or had SDRs working for me for the last, 10, 11 years, I guess. And at Outreach, we have about 100,000 of them on the platform as well. So we see all sorts. So Max, hopefully I can give you a couple of nuggets to go away with today.
Nice one. Thanks
Awesome.
a lot, Tom. Outreach recently raised a bit of dollar to sort of help propel that growth, Tom, I hear. So it's nice to see things moving on up.
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff. Max, please introduce yourself, your background, and I suppose what you really want to get out of today.
Hi everyone, I'm Max Tomago from CodeThink. I am a salesperson for CodeThink, which is a software engineering services company. And my background is in software engineering, so I was a software engineer all my life. And to be honest, I still kind of miss that part. Being a salesperson now, I kind of miss solving engineering problems, but this is all very new for me. So today I'm trying to focus on cold calling, which is, I'm a complete newbie, so this is completely new to me. I've not done much cold calling. This is like, I've only just started now. So, I'm hoping to, you guys can basically roast me for all my mistakes and we'll see what happens.
Well, look, Max, really appreciate you joining and making the brave move. I love it when salespeople just want to put themselves out there and get better. So that's what we're here to help with. It's amazing to hear that you've gone from engineering into actually selling that product. So hats off to you, sir. Let's go into it. So Kate, can I hand over to you and you can kick us off with how we're going to run this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Max, I think I'm going to be your customer that you're going to be selling to today. So I know you've given a bit of a background to your organization. So we're literally going to run through how you would open a cold call, how you would run through it, have a conversation with me, the questions you'd ask, and then close it. And then we'll perhaps we'll then do some feedback on that. Is that all right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. So let's crack on then. Give me a call.
Okay. So should we start just by me starting with my opening line and?
Absolutely, as if I've just picked up the call.
Okay.
Hello, Kate Lewis.
Hello, Kate. This is Max Tomago from CodeThink. Is now a good time to talk?
Yeah, I've got a bit of time.
Okay, we are a software engineering services company. So we help companies like yours build software. Could you tell me if you're involved in any software projects at your company?
Yeah, I mean, we build out a technology platform, a sales technology platform. So we do have a dev team.
Okay, cool. Do you work with any open source technologies?
Yes, we do work with some open source technologies. Okay,
that's good. I'm asking because I'm just trying to find out what kind of issues you might have. Could you tell me about any challenges that your dev team has had with your project, especially in the area? Well, first, could you just tell me a bit about the project in general so that I can get an overview of what you're doing?
Right. So the platform, the development project, is our own technology platform. It's a SaaS-based platform, and we have an internal dev team that works on that, and support teams that interact with it. It is the only thing we do, so our entire business is structured around that software and that technology platform.
Okay, and could you tell me how large is the team that's building that app?
Yeah, at the moment we've got 7 developers working on the application from various different angles.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you might be spending a lot of effort building large code bases. You know, if you have 7 people working together, you kind of get a lot of code. Could you tell me what are your build times like? Are you satisfied with your build times, or how often do you deploy?
We have a fairly agile approach, so we're deploying probably on updates on a weekly, bi-weekly basis in any given time frame, because we work in such an agile way.
Okay, so basically every time an engineer makes a change, for them to test that change, they have to wait for a build, which is going to be about 3-4 days from now, if you're doing it bi-weekly.
I would guess so, yeah, something like that.
So basically for every change, if I'm a dev and I make a change, basically I have to wait at least 2 days or 3 days to get the results, to check the results and see if there's bugs in my approach, if I have introduced any defects to the system.
I mean, it's just part of our process. We've built a process and a team around that, so it's something we're comfortable. It doesn't cause us any challenges in particular that I can think of. Yeah,
you're kind of used to it.
Yeah.
But would you say it would make it easier for you, in terms of efficiency, if you could deploy builds of your software, let's say every hour?
Blimey. Yeah, I've got to acknowledge that would make it easier.
Yeah, it would make it easier, right? And this way, every change a dev makes could be tested out effectively immediately. Immediately compared to the time frame of 2 days or 3 days. This way your devs can just spend all their time actually doing the work, because they can make a change, test it out, and see if it's going to change anything.
So how can you help with that? That's all still my own dev team. I've still got to do everything, all the dev. So how do you interact with that?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, what we could do is I could talk to one of your team leaders, or someone who's responsible for the build on the very technical level, and we could get one of our engineers, also one of our very technical guys, because I'm just a salesperson, so I don't have the full knowledge of what we could do for you, but we could set up a meeting, and basically you could tell us more about how you build your systems from a very technical point of view. It could be a meeting of me, you, one of your technical guys, and one of our technical guys, and we would see if there's any space for improvement, because in practice it'll depend on the specifics of the case.
But what sort of thing do you do? So is it a piece of software that you're selling? Is it a framework? Is it expertise? Is it training?
It's usually expertise plus work. So like I say, it would depend on the specifics. But let's say we find that the way you guys do builds is an engineer takes a laptop and basically runs the build on their own laptop. So what we could do is we could give you a team of 3 people, let's say for 3 months, and we would go into your code base and reorganize that. So you would use a modern CI/CD pipeline, using something like GitLab, or like I say, the specifics depend on the case. So GitLab might not be the best solution for you, but this really depends on the specifics of your case.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Sounds interesting.
Cool. So would you want to schedule that appointment with maybe one of your technical guys? And
I'll tell you what. Why don't you send me some information, and I can have a read through and chat with my teams, and then maybe we can reconnect after that.
Sure. Okay. So would you give me your email address?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kate@e4enable.com.
Cool. What kind of information are you looking for?
I'm looking for some examples
Mm-hmm.
of projects that you've worked on.
Okay, so
perhaps
like,
similar to our organization.
So like case studies, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna send you an email. If you don't get back to me, is it okay if I call you next week?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay. See you later, Kate. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Max. I always nearly actually hang up.
Yeah, me too.
I nearly ended the meeting then and thought, oh no, don't press that button.
Well done, Max.
Yeah,
well done, Max. That was great.
Brave, man.
Really brave.
How did you find that?
Well, actually, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. This was the first time I got so far. Because
very
usually,
nice.
Yeah, well, usually what happens in real life is that my decision makers are they're very busy, so they're usually in meetings. So usually I have to schedule an appointment with them. And then they usually tell me there's nothing we can do for them. You know, with you guys now, with Kate, it was much easier because you kind of engineered the situation in a way that you were much more open to the possibility of us working with your build system. Whereas in real life, what I found, and you know, maybe this is because of the times now, you know, because of the crisis and the whole situation with COVID, but people seem more resistant to any kind of external contractors.
Interesting. Okay, that sounds like something I'd like to pick up on later on. Right, I've made a few notes. I'm sure the other guys have. I'd really love to hand it over to Tom first, if that's all right. Then Costas, if you can bring in, then yourself, Kate, and then I'll add anything I can. Tom, would you mind kicking us off and give Max some feedback and some helpful advice?
I can, yes, and thanks for bringing me in cold. Max, just at the beginning of the call, I was intrigued. You said, so I'm missing coding, and you know, but I'm doing this new role. How did this come about? It feels like you were kind of forced into it.
No, actually not. I was. I just felt like engineering was too easy, and I really wanted to do something different. And I thought it would be. I thought it would be difficult to get. You know, it would be difficult to get a job at sales at a different company. But here, you know, I kind of built a name for myself at CodeLink, so I thought I would use that opportunity and ask if I can help the sales team here.
And what a well thought out strategy, which doesn't surprise me from a development background. Well done. Yeah, so the reason I asked that is I can get somewhat defensive when people come into the sales kind of arena and don't give it the credit or the professionalism it looks for. So I'm glad that you're choosing to come into this area because it's tough. Yeah. And a bit like I can't code, and I'd need to do a lot of training and understand some of the rules and activities. It's the same in sales.
Yes.
There's a lot of natural talent required and commitment and resilience. These are some of the kind of the behavioral things which are important, but there are some skills. And what I saw during your call, I use an analogy. Let's say tennis as an analogy. If you were playing me again at tennis, you've got a great forehand, a great smash. Your serve was pretty good. You didn't have a bad drop shot either, but there was no game plan.
Mhm.
And so I may not even be as good at you at those individual shots, yeah, but I could probably beat you in a game because I had a structure and a strategy to get me through the process. So what I really liked from a natural talent standpoint, and I'm going to label them for other people listening to the call, but you were really good at reward and reverse. So reward and reverse is when somebody gave you a nugget of information, you were grateful for it. You said, thank you for that. Oh, that's great. I love that. And then you asked your next question. All right. Lots of people from analytical and kind of structured backgrounds like yourself do what I call interrogation. They never do the reward. It's just question, question, question. So fantastic on that. You had a natural ability around summary. So it's called a summarize, bridge, pull. Yeah. So summarize, bridge, pull is Kate gave you some information. You summarized that in your own words to show that you'd been listening. You then bridged to another subject and asked another question. These are actually quite advanced techniques which you are unconsciously competent at. Yeah, which is great. It's a great starting point. When Kate asked you for more information, one of my favorite questions of all time is, so what kind of information are you looking for? Right? I have videos, I have case studies, I have white papers. I used to say, what's the biggest email you can get? I can do 50 meg with all the information we've got, or we can maybe narrow it down, and then permission to call next week if you don't get a response. So all of that stuff is great. Where I think you would really do well, look on Google and search for Lean Canvas, right? Lean Canvas was a tool used about 15, 20 years ago by founders who wanted to rationalize their pitch onto one page to go and pitch to VCs for money. Okay. And you'll see a load of images on Google, and some of them will have numbers on it because there is actually an order to filling it out, right? So what I'd like you to do is to go and fill that out, because that will help you to understand who is my ideal customer, what's my unfair advantage, how do I charge for this, what problems am I solving, and so on and so forth. We'll give you a bit of structure as a first effort at that playbook and that strategy for the call. The second thing I'd like you to do is to consider getting some training. Yeah. So you can do trial and error for a long while. Unfortunately, in sales, there's an old saying which is a salesperson isn't for life, they're for one calendar quarter. And you're not going to be. You've built up some great credits in your existing organization. You know the company, all the rest of it, but they aren't going to stick with you forever if you are basically training yourself or testing your process out on lots of prospects and not getting anywhere. And if we've got time on the call, I'm happy to make some recommendations about some books or where you could go and get some accessible training. All right.
Yes, please. That'd be very useful.
Alex, Kate, is that about the level? I could keep going, but I kind of want to pass over to you all too.
I mean, I almost just want to keep listening because I think what you've said is pure gold, Tom. So, I mean, hopefully we'll be able to come back to you in a sec. But I think as a summary, it's. I mean, I've certainly learned. I'm taking notes as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Costas, how about you, mate?
Yeah. How do you follow up after Tom? I agree with what Tom said. Here's the good thing, Max, because of your engineering background, your mind usually thinks in terms of helping people. Solution. Where's the problem? Where's the solution? And I think that what Tom was saying, what you are unconsciously competent, is asking some really good questions. Now, if I was to look at the whole page, I would say that you haven't received, because you've been doing it for 2 months, you haven't received training, or the training hasn't been embedded in you. But that natural ability of thinking problem, solution, help from your previous, it's apparent when you're asking the questions. So I think that the whole page, the strongest points are 2 or 3 questions that made Kate think, give you answers, you picked on them. I feel that what you need to do, and I agree with Tom, you need structure. In the beginning, you're asking a lot of questions that you probably should know, should have an idea. They're called situational questions. questions that, you know, they don't benefit the person on the other end of the phone, right? So the first 30 seconds, the person on the other end of the phone is thinking, who are you? What are you talking about? I do not know code thing. I have no idea what you're talking. And then you're asking me about my business to give you information.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So I think that what you need to work on, I would put aside the questioning and I would work on your structure earlier on the pitch, how to get to a point where you actually declare people in the call or outside the call. Because people don't give you opportunity, I believe, because they're not clear what you're trying to say in the first 30, 40, 50 seconds. If you give it the opportunity though, and you start talking about the 1 day, the 2 days, the rates and this, which means that you're talking about the saving money, making better, fast track certain projects, that makes sense. It's how you get to that point, which I think you struggle. I think the end of your call was very good. I would follow up with the question of what do you like to see, or I'd like to see X, Y, and Z, and how you're going to use that information. Because you need to know how they're going to use this information. Are they going to take the information to look at it for themselves? Are they going to invite other people to look at the information? Just another question. But I wouldn't necessarily worry about the end bit at this point. I would try to work with you. I would work with you on your entry point. And Tom said a couple of things. You need to be very clear. When I received your email, I was slightly surprised that you didn't put who your ideal client is. If I was to actually, all my guys need to know which are the 1, 2 job titles that we have 1 or 2, 3 solution stops that we work with. That's it.
Right. Okay.
Anyone else can have an interesting conversation. They're never going to buy. Because at the end, it's like, it's an old school theory. It's the 3/3 theory, right? People will never buy, people that will buy later, people who can buy now. You might be wasting a lot of time with people that will never buy.
Yes. Well, because we work with large contracts, it will usually be some kind of consensus on the part of multiple decision makers. So usually the person that I will try to contact will be someone like VP of software or, you know, VP of engineering, something like that. And then, you know, you kind of have to understand who you need to include in your conversation, because it's usually going to be a decision of multiple decision makers.
But again, that VP will have some priorities that they need to solve that you can help them with or not. So the fact that you know who you're going for, you need them to figure out how to figure out whether this person could be a client of yours because they have a challenge, a problem, a project, whatever, that you can help them with. And I think that the entry point was a bit weak because of the questions you were asking. I think you were wasting time.
Yeah.
I think structure, I do not know what Tom is going to suggest. I think a very easy book and a process to follow, have you heard of the spin selling book?
Yes.
Spin selling is great because it gives you a very easy process to follow. Ask 1 or 2 situational questions, go into the problem questions, and then trying to find needs paid off questions. I think it's for complex sales, but it's very easy structure to follow. I would definitely buy that book and I will start working on those questions. How much information, what questions do you need to ask initially that you can't get from the website, that you can't get in any other shape or form? And the last thing I want to add is that you need to understand what triggers someone to consider outsourcing services. For example, let's say that Tom receives, Tom, they raised, I don't know, 10 million. That might be, if I was a recruitment consultant, I will approach Tom because I know that now they're scaling, right? I can sell my services. What is the trigger point that most of your customers, your successful customers, people that you became your customers, what is the trigger point that happens in those industries for you to call and have a higher success rate? But I think that you're halfway there with your mindset. You're just now putting that process that will get you to talk value, which I think you can do because of your background. It's how you get there. I think spin selling will probably help you a lot, structuring your questioning to get to a point quicker.
Okay, that makes sense.
Every sales book is ultimately based off spin.
After 1980 something, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Max, something to, and I love what Costas was saying there is, what's the trigger point? And actually, one of my biggest frustrations with calls like this that go on to get published, for some reason, I find sales leaders are reluctant to give tactics away on how to get this done. And it's hilarious because actually the tactic isn't the secret sauce, it's then what you do with it. So the tactic I'm going to give you here is when you're thinking of a trigger point, before I want you to say, I'm sick and tired, or your customer is sick and tired of, or I can't stand the fact that. Now, if you say that before the trigger point, if it feels like it fits, it's a good trigger point because it's what's called away messaging. They're moving away from, and I don't know your business, but it might be, I'm sick and tired of us releasing software that the day after it goes live, our support teams crash because there's loads of bugs being called in. I can't stand the fact that in the news, 3 days after we've released a new platform, there are professional hackers out there who are boasting about breaking into our platform. I don't know enough about software development, but you can see I'm trying to pick those areas where you've got that really emotional away messaging, and heads of development aren't that emotional.
Yeah.
So you can then say, hello, Mr. VP of Software, one of 3 reasons why you might want to take a closer look at what we're doing. Number 1 is you're sick and tired of the quality of the software. When your software gets released, your support system blows up because there's loads of errors coming in. Number 2 is you're sick and tired of the fact that you finish coding and you seem to spend months in QA before you're ready to get the software out of the system. And number 3 is you can't stand the fact that your competitors are always bringing new functionality to the market quicker than you because you just can't operate in an agile way in the business. I don't suppose you're facing any of those challenges. Now we're talking about outcomes, which I'm guessing your company helps fix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you've now got them talking about things which are important to them in an area where you have solutions.
Okay.
How does that sound to you, Max?
Sorry, go ahead.
How does that sound to you? You're flipping everything, right? You're almost flipping it to the problem rather than the feature and the benefit.
Yeah, well, I mean, like one of the major struggles for us is that what we do is very broad, so it's difficult to come up with a pitch, which is why I kind of opened with a question about what kind of issues you guys have. But I think it's a very valid point that the other person on the call is kind of wondering like who the hell is this person? They have no idea who we are, so yeah, some kind of like an introductory message, like a short pitch would be useful.
The thing is, if you don't, sorry, Costas, go on.
Go ahead.
The thing is, if you ask your problem questions and they're too broad, then you will get the answer that you don't want. So if you say, what are your biggest issues? Well, my coffee isn't hot in the morning.
Yeah.
And my kids didn't sleep last night and I'm knackered. Your problem questions have to be, to Tom's point, to get to that point of the pain that you can solve. For me, I'm going to go into some specifics actually, because Tom and Costas have sort of talked about the structural aspect. For me, your call started when you said, and I've written it down, sounds like you have a large code base. Because you then went on to tell a story about the challenges that gives and causes. And then you challenged me to say, would you think it would be me easier? Would you acknowledge that it would be easier if you could do that in hours? So you went straight to something that you knew that I was going to be feeling, but that's when the call started. So that was absolutely brilliant for me when you said those wonderful words. Sounds like you have a large code base. To Costas' point and Tom's point, everything before that was situational questions that you could have found out on LinkedIn. So you asked me, what size is my dev team? That could have that you could find that out. It's public knowledge. Everybody would be on LinkedIn. What do you develop? Do you have software development? Well, again, it would be obvious by the size of my development team. Looking at a few of their profiles, we could see the type of development, whether they're specialists in open source. That bit of research that you do beforehand means that you can skip all of that What do you do? Tell me. I haven't given you anything yet, but by the way, I'm a complete stranger phoning you up asking you to tell me your life story. No, you
Yeah.
can find a lot out about their life story and start with those killer things. With an organization like you, similar organizations have found that with a large code base and a large dev base, these are some of the problem areas. To Tom's point, that trigger, that this is the stuff that really annoys me, is the fact that we have to wait 7 days to do a release, or we've got a delay, and I want to be able to do it faster because that would keep us ahead of the market, and so on. So those aspects of it. The other thing, actually, if you read Spin, there's no such thing as a better outcome if you ask open and closed questions. It's a common fallacy. It's one of the things that Spin teaches you. But there are closed questions and there are closed questions. Yeah. So asking me, do you have this? And I say, yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell you something. If you ask that type of closed question in a problem way, does this scenario cause you pain in this particular area, like it does for many of our clients? That's still a closed question, and the answer is still really powerful for me, because you've given them a voice where perhaps just opening that, what's your biggest issue? The only final thing I'm going to comment on, well, there's two. One, again, I think it's Alex that mentioned it, or Tom. I love the fact that you asked what type of information, because I was trying to fob you off there, and you got me, which was brilliant. And the other thing is, don't put yourself down. You said at one point, I'm just a salesperson.
Right, yes.
Remember the value that you're bringing to this. You're helping to highlight a problem that you can solve. You might, and particularly for you, because of your engineering background. So don't undersell yourself and say, I'm just a salesperson, would just be my last comment.
Yeah, that was probably the wrong words there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a nice segue into some of the notes I made, Mike. You're not just a salesperson. You can say, I used to face these problems myself. I've actually transitioned from being a software engineer. That is as Tom mentioned, when you're pitching to investors, you want to have an unfair advantage. You have an unfair advantage against all other salespeople, right? Because you understand. We talk about empathy a lot in sales, and it should be something that's taught anyway. But you can actually really truly empathize, saying, by the way, I used to do this, right? And get excited about that. And then your buyer's like, oh, wow. Person really knows their stuff, and you started talking about that and kind of going when you're pushing stuff and everything, and it made you feel really authentic. I would like to give you a framework, by the way. I'm going to give you my framework that I teach, and it's 7 steps that I call the steps to the winning call. And some people hate this, by the way, but one thing I don't like is scripts. Okay, I hate scripts.
Yeah.
I like frameworks, right? So what I teach is you start with step 1 where you research. It goes back to what Kate was saying before. I teach 3 by 3, right? You look into the contact, you look into the company, and you have the conversation starter, right? You need to know the basic things like the fact that Kate has 7 people in her dev team, right? Because then you can ask a really relevant question about that. I noticed you have 7 people in your dev team, and you're building SaaS technology, so your code base must be massive. Do any of these problems apply to you, right? So that allows you to have that conversation starter, because you can go straight to the point. But you need to know the company. There's a really simple rule. Don't ask questions that you could have researched yourself.
Yes.
Okay. We live in 2020 now, right? And we're all really busy, right? So you've got to cut to the chase, and you have a very limited amount of time. So that's the first thing, right? Research. State the reason why you're calling is step 2. The reason I'm calling is because I noticed you've got 7 engineers, blah, blah, blah. If you can't find something really compelling, then you need like a framework which is focused around like problems and the kind of the priority challenges, I call them. So most of our customers are asking these questions, just like everyone else has mentioned. And then you go into step 3, which is generate that authentic curiosity. And this is the bit actually you're very good at anyway, because you come from that background. You can ask those more probing questions. How do you currently do this? I used to be an engineer, I could do that. Go into the needs, right? Find about their business issue, right? You look like you're in scale-up mode right now, Kate. Like, how are you managing that as you really grow? That's when you pitch your solution, step 5. Okay, that's when you're allowed to say, so the reason I'm getting in touch with you specifically is here's what we do. So you've gone through a lot of steps to kind of show you've done your research, show the reason why you're getting in touch, have
Yeah,
that
so
attention
sorry.
grabber.
So step 5 is pitch solutions, and step 4.
That's when so step 4 was the needs, right? It's not
Yeah.
about features, it's around the business issue. Step 5 is like the solution. That's when you can pitch the solution, right? Here's how we're doing it specifically for companies like you. Then you handle the objections just like you did, and then step 7 is next steps. The only thing I'd add on to what you did, which I thought was great, I loved it. I was thinking, is he going to ask the what do you want to see? But I teach 3 W's, right? What do you want to see? Why do you want to see it? And when do you want it by? Because that allows you to almost pre-qualify a little bit more. Why do you want to see it? Well, because we're actually hiring 3 more software engineers, right? And actually this could be really relevant. When do you want to see it by? Well, they're not starting for another 2 weeks, but we're going to have a board meeting about this on Monday. So actually, can you send it in the next half an hour? That allows you to determine the urgency from your end. Those are the 7 basic steps, by the way, of having a framework for a call. That seems to work. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or anything on that, or Max, if you have any feedback for me on that.
I think that sounds good. I mean, that sounds like something that I could try and see if it works for me.
Can I just give you a bit of advice in terms of how you need to be thinking about your next call?
Sure.
You hope for a yes, but you aim for a no. The minute you aim for a no, you detach yourself from the outcome of you having a sale, of you having a conversation. That is why you put your proposition forward. And if you get a no, it's fine, because you're not spending time with people that do not want to invest in your solution. What it does, the minute people make that detachment from the outcome and they don't care about aiming for no, you become more confident, because you do not want to waste anyone's time. Your whole approach, and I get it, 3 blokes and a lovely lady, critiquing your call, it's daunting, man. I wouldn't have done it. What are you, 22, 23 years old?
23.
I can't remember what I was doing. So well done on that. But you need to now start thinking, if you want to have a successful career in sales, you need to aim for a no, and that will change your whole approach, how you're going. You do not want a nice conversation. It doesn't do anything for you, does not do anything for your client. You want to help people that you can help.
Yeah.
So aim for that no. Be more forthcoming with this is my solution. This is what people who buy the solution, this challenge they have. Are you in or are you out in a conversation? That's the basis of everything.
Yeah. Makes
Love
sense.
that, Costas. Tom, we've got another 5 minutes if you'd like to share some more.
Yeah, I've worked for companies before where, so Right Now Technologies basically was a company I worked for many years ago, where we put FAQs on websites, and they were intelligent FAQs, and they went up and down. The number of possible use cases for it were infinite. And what I'm worried about, Max, when you said like what we provide is really broad, is people like to buy from experts. Think about if you went to a doctor and you had, a major heart problem, you wouldn't go to the doctor that says, I do shoulders, knees, lungs, I do a bit of this, and I do hearts as well. Can I crack you open and put you under the knife for 6 hours? You're like, whoa, I want heart surgery. I want somebody who specializes in hearts, all right? So the fact is, you will have projects that you've done which are super successful, that have a set of parameters around them. And the skill of a salesperson, I've called it the concentric model, which is go and find other people like that person you sold to, and chances are they may well have similar problems to the ones that you've just sold for somebody else. So, if you were selling to EDF Energy, only because you mentioned and this was the problem that you fixed for them, chances are if you walk over to another energy company at the road, Thames Water or whatever it is, absolutely the same set of problems. The chances are pretty high. It's uncanny. I just did a post on LinkedIn this afternoon. It was an old quote from David Packard, one of the founders of Hewlett-Packard, funnily enough, which was, companies don't die from starvation, they die from indigestion. So starvation is a lack of pipeline. Indigestion is just trying to be all things to all people and doing too many things. I'd actually encourage you, one of the benefits of the lean canvas model is pick something, an area that your company smashes it at. is really good, is renowned for, and you may have done it for 2 or 3 companies already, yeah, and you're able to categorize it. Then go and find companies similar to that, and then go and hit the phones. Well, hit emails, phones, LinkedIn, multi-channel approach and what have you, and you will suddenly find, oh, yeah, I'm becoming the heart surgeon of this particular set of outcomes that we're trying to address. Otherwise, you are making this a really tough. Even I've been doing sales for years. There's no way I could, do one call for outreach in the afternoon, do a call for Costas' company, and the following day do calls for Alex's company. The following days, that's just too much. It would be blowing my mind. I need that repeatable process.
Yeah. Okay.
Love that heart surgeon analogy there, Tom. It's gold.
Oh, it's gold.
Hopefully, Max, that helps you. But be more focused, I think, is the summary there. You need to zone in, find out who your ideal customer really is. If you don't know, go and talk to your customer success or account management team. Have you got a team like that who looks after your existing customers?
Well, it's usually the salesperson will be the account manager for that client. So like if I get a client, I'm the account manager for them.
Great. Talk to those other salespeople, right? Ask them why people bought, what the reasons why, what are the problems that company's trying to solve. Then look into the industries, the number of employees, the number of dev guys they've got. Find all those things and then just cross-reference them all so that when you build your target accounts, the accounts you go after, you'll have the trends, you'll have all the sound bites you need, and you can solve the same problems.
Okay, sounds good.
And if you DM me after this meeting, Max, I'll send you a free copy of the sales engagement book, which is what you're trying to do. Loads of tips in there.
Yeah, and one final bit of advice for me: follow Tom's company, right? Follow Outreach specifically for prospecting. They are not just an awesome bit of kit, but they produce a lot of content. Kate's company does the same. It's about sales enablement. Costas and I are in a slightly different boat. But follow those businesses, because businesses and our media companies, Outreach, have this whole side of this called Sales Hacker, right? The Sales Hacker community, you need to dive into that because they produce a lot of gold, which will help you. Read that book, get that book from Tom. And finally, for me, treat sales as a very credible profession. Like, we're all here because we're trying to elevate the sales profession. I used to be a lawyer. I'd much rather be a salesperson. Right, it's a really, really, really good job, and I'm really pleased to see that you've made the step into it. Stay in touch with us, and we'll help you so that you can elevate yourself into that profession as best as possible.
Yeah, it's a great job, and I think very few people can do it. Like most people, I think. Do you guys know Jeb Blount?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jeb Blount had a quote that most people would rather slit their wrists than get on the phone and call people and call prospects.
Yep.
And
but Max, you've done
the
awesome thing today of coming to some people that these guys have been doing it longer than I have, but coming to people that can help you because you clearly want to do this, right? So good luck in your profession, and I think you'll do really well, particularly given that you've chosen to sell to people that you used to do the job of, right? So good luck in it, and lean on the sales community because everyone wants to help one another.
Cool. Thank you guys for having me. That was a great session.
Great job, Max. Really great job. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.